Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sim Sundays. The professionalism. I just in my ear then just had will I've stop drinking coffee. Welcome to another episode of Sim Sundays by Gridfinder, sponsored by Trak Racer. There we go. We're back into the professional flow now. This week we are joined by Studio 397 Community Manager, Race Department Editor-in-Chief, SRO Esports GT Series Commentator, and Lamborghini The Real Race Commentator, Paul Jeffrey. Welcome.
Hello! How you doing, Tom? Hello, everybody on the Tinterwebs. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming. Paul, I don't know if you remember this, because you're a man who's done many broadcasts and you've done a lot of interviews. Do you remember interviewing me maybe 2 years ago?
I do.
Do you?
And may I just say, you are considerably more confident on camera than you were back in those good old days. I remember I could actually, despite the fact we're not located anywhere near each other, could smell the fear drifting over me as we did the interview when I first did it. So, yeah, man, well done. You've moved on.
Thanks. There has been some progress. I haven't necessarily got any more professional, but maybe a little bit more confident. So that interview 2 years ago on the for the race department website, I think our mutual friend Steve had discovered the magic of Gridfinder and had invited me on to do an interview about the product. And the first thing I noticed when you came on to do the interview was your colourful shirt. Tell us about it.
Well, just while we're talking, I'm actually multitasking, so apologies that I'm not looking at the camera, but apparently on my Facebook channel I put the wrong link to YouTube, so I've just quickly rectified that one. Right, let's get to business, let's be professional. Yeah, floral is my friend. I like floral, I like paisley. I'd like to say it was cool now, but it's not. But it's slightly less uncool than when I first started doing it. So I liked it before it was moderately popular amongst a niche crowd of people.
Right, before it was on Radio 1, right? You were in with the paisley pattern.
There we go. I even got, for the benefit of those watching on YouTube, unfortunately for you folks listening on audio only, you'll have to imagine this. I even got paisley wallpaper on a little corner of the man cave just so I could stay on brand.
Is that wallpaper from previous shirts?
Yeah. Honestly, if I could find a shirt that was dressed up like that wallpaper, I would be absolutely delighted. So for the last 3 years, I've been going to various different local UK clothing outlets in January sales, trying to find a shirt for less than 15 quid that looks like that, because 15 is the absolute upper limit that it's worth paying for a shirt.
It's kind of the exact same concept, but exact opposite aesthetic as the Chris Hay black cap. It's kind of your brand.
Yeah, exactly. So my fellow sim racer, Mr. Chris A, goes for the plain, and I go for the eye-bleedingly bright.
And but a lot of your content is audio only, right? So you do a lot of commentary. You're up in the booth. You're up on the mic, commentating a sim race. So is the colourful shirt just as much to inspire your own confidence as it is to kind of project the brand?
Well, to be honest, man, I've got a face for radio, so having me away from camera is no bad thing. And whenever I am in front of a camera, it's usually I have to wear the setup of whatever it is that I'm doing at the time, and inevitably they are painfully plain. So I, outside of sim racing, do TCR touring car, and then theirs is a plain white one with just like a little logo sponsor there, the TCR on the top pocket, and I'm like, guys, this so needs to be floral. So I'm working on that.
Claustrophobic.
Yeah, definitely. So for 2023, watch this space. I'm trying to bring TCR into the 1960s.
Well, that could be your headline, your quote in your show reel could be like, Paul Jeffrey, face for radio, a shirt for camera.
Oh, I love. Ooh.
Write that down.
Allow me to write that down in my Nigel Mansell book.
Right, no more multitasking, Paul. This is a very serious podcast, okay? God damn it, right.
Yeah, I like that. That is awesome.
I went on your LinkedIn profile today. Not today, weeks ago when I started researching for this episode, I promise.
That's a lot more recently than I went on it, so that's good.
Well, I was going to say, because the only thing you have on your LinkedIn is the list of roles that I've read out at the beginning of the show about studio.
You're out of date.
Manager, race department editor-in-chief, the SRO Esports GT Series commentator. So, was there a life before this, or were you born a sim racing commentator? Real question.
Oh yes, there was a life before it. It's been a long and winding road that's required a hell of a lot of sacrifice, a hell of a lot of time and effort and energy. But this has always been the goal. When I realised I was far too tall and far too poor to be a racing driver, so the secondary goal was always to be something in the world of racing. And then, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
So this is long form content, Paul. This is
good.
People will be listening to this on the train, in the car, on the way to work.
Good.
We've got time.
Long form suits me because I'm not the most brief of people. So long story short, I'm not into computers. I'm not into consoles, games, none of that malarkey. I like motor racing only. And years upon years ago, we were at my mother and father-in-law's. And as you do when you're at mother and father-in-law's houses, you scratch around trying to find something to do that's not communicating. So I got onto some kind of internet portal. I forget what it was, whether they had a PC or whatever. And I was kind of like just cruising around looking at different racing things and bumped into... I don't think it was a first-party advert. I think it was a third-party advert or like a write-up somebody had put about R Factor 1. And I distinctly remember it. And it was along the lines of, if there's a series and a track that exists in the world, you can race it in R Factor 1. And immediately that piqued my interest. Because I'm like, I like obscure stuff, not just the whole like top level FIA Grade 1 championships. I'm like, oh, hello. This is interesting. And I kind of I probably fell into somewhere like R Factor Central or whatever, the mods repository of that it used to be back in the day, and just saw a wealth of stuff, Argentinian TC 2000 series, all these obscure things. I'm like, this piqued my interest greatly. And I was aware that racing games existed, but because I don't play computer games, I'm not interested in computer games. It never went further than like playing the old Psygnosis F1 games back on the PlayStation, but it was just purely like a bit of a crack. It wasn't anything serious. So, alas, away I went, bought myself a PC, found a desk in a skip, like you do, bolted a G25 onto it, put the G25 pedals... I also found, again, apologies to audio-only people that you can't see my hand movements, but a set of bricks where it was one brick at the top, then cemented in another one, but there's a little gap in the middle, which is perfect for putting it against the wall and pushing your pedals up to, but not sort of fouling the cable for it. Got R Factor 1, got GTR 2 or GTR 1, whatever it was at the time, and just completely fell down the magical mystery hole that is sim racing. Absolutely adored it, as everybody does over time. You upgrade pieces here and there. Elected not to go get a racing car, because this is cheaper. That didn't work out well. And then over time, I spent a lot of time at race department, engaging with people, as you do, downloading mods.
As a member,
Yeah. Just basically as someone that kind of like went in there and sucked it dry for everything it were worth and contributed nothing. And then did the racing club as well. I started off with the racing experience. Then just after a while, I'm like, Paul, you're taking a lot of goodness from the world of sim racing, but giving nothing. And at the time, while that was sort of like going through my mind, what can I do to kind of like give back? Because I'm not a computer guy, so I can't mod or anything. The guy that ran the racing club at Race Room left. I had a word with Bram, who runs RD. I'm like, I'll step up and do this, no worries, because I don't want it to die. It's been a good thing, blah, blah, blah. And then that kind of like a friendship blossomed. While I was doing that one, it became apparent that new things were coming out at the time for Race Room, but no one was really posting anything about it in the news. So I kind of like started putting a few articles together, and then they got published, and then a few turned into an absolute ton. And then you know what it's like when you do something, you want to do it right. So I started doing interviews, making some video content. So that kind of like blossomed into doing that full time. And then as part of that role, back in 2019, we partnered up with AK Informatica and SRO Motorsport to do the very first SRO Esports series, which at the time, pre-COVID, when the world was a more open place, travelled around what was the Blancpain GT World Challenge Series. So they're like, right, we're going to have some rigs, we're going to set them up, we're going to need somebody on site to commentate. Who wants to do it? And I'm like, I'll do it because I fancy travelling. I'm not a commentator, never done it before, but bugger it. So my first ever commentary was round one at Monza. And from there, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Nobody's had enough heart to tell me I'm rubbish at it and sack me. And I've just kind of like collected jobs and gone on from there. So a very, very, very long answer. The short version is no, I did it in 2019.
Well, do you know what baffles me is that whenever I look at your Facebook page, I notice that you're always abroad. Now, sim racing is virtual, right? So it's online. So in theory, if you said to somebody that you commentate on sim racing races, you'd be forgiven for thinking, oh, well, you probably do all of that from home. And it doesn't matter where the race is, you commentate. But actually, you're going out to these events. That's recent, right? That hasn't always been the case. Have you noticed that shift in the world of kind of online remote racing becoming local?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of flip-flop depending on what you're doing. So, like a lot of the stuff that I travel for, it's because there's studio work in there as well. There's kind of like a show around it and stuff. So there's a lot of like piece-to-camera things and various different set pieces and all that good stuff. And kind of before COVID, a big thing in the higher profile series were like getting engagement on site, so having physical rigs located at a racetrack or whatever, and then getting some drivers involved and getting people to travel to it. Then obviously, COVID hit and the world of green screens and all that jazz came on. So it really depends on the series. Like I still do SRO, but the stuff I do, that's transitioned back, ironically, from being on site to being remote again and like dialing into a server and an internet connection. And the on-site stuff's transitioned to having the real drivers come and they do what they call the Pro Series. So the real GT World Challenge drivers come. Really cool, actually. And this is how sim racing has moved on. The results they get, forgive me, by the way, anyone listening at home that knows all about this already, but the results they get, if they win, that has a material effect on their allocation of points and tyre usage in the GT World Challenge Real Series. So that's how big it's come on, which is absolutely sensational. But then there's still stuff for us, either professional esport people or what my personal favourite is community people that get given a shop window to transition into being a professional, which is why I love the Ferrari stuff we do. Because they're the Ferrari Esports, or the Ferrari Velas Esports series for its full title. That is a competition where anyone can join. Anyone can race. They set times to enter the threshold to do the knockout races. And essentially, you go through a process. And at the end of it, we get 3 drivers from North American series. So and 3 drivers from European series. And they come to Italy. And they do a whole assessment program and online thing and everything. And whoever wins gets a paid drive for the Scuderia Ferrari Esports team.
It's
mental.
Baffling how much the world of sim racing and real racing has overlapped and merged. But actually, not that surprising when you kind of drill down into it. I think I've probably said this in a couple of episodes now, but if you look at sim racing, it's so directly comparable to real racing. You're sat in a seat with a steering wheel with pedals. It's the same. It's not like FIFA or Call of Duty where you're not actually running around. You probably wouldn't be good at it in the real world. It's directly comparable. So perhaps it's not surprising that there's this much overlap between the two worlds.
Physically, I agree with you. I think where the big changes come, the sea changes come, and again, it's post nasty virus thing. The big sea changes come as people are becoming more aware of it now. So it's moving away from its niche. It's still a niche, but it's expanded into the extra niche of motorsport in the real life. And again, go back to 2019 when we followed the Blancpain it was at the time. There was a bit of mockery from the real world cohort of drivers and commentators and presenters. It's like, oh, who's these?
Yeah.
And now those same drivers, commentators, and presenters are working day in, day out in sim racing. So I think that's been the biggest change. The parallel's always been there, and we've always known about
Yeah.
it in our minutely
Yeah.
small pocket of the internet. But now that's becoming more and more. People are more and more aware of it, and I think that's actually it's been a silver lining in what's been a particularly dark cloud.
And it's kind of positioned you perfectly, right? Because at the beginning of the show, you said that you were not a computer guy, you were a massive motorsport fan, and then you discovered this love of sim racing, and you got into motorsport through sim racing, and then that has given you a platform to now work full time in motorsport as well as sim racing, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't think you were able to go directly from viewer fan to motorsport professional, but sim racing has given you that springboard into it. And now, not that many years later, the two worlds have merged and allowed you to now go off and commentate on real world races. Because presumably, it's not that different, right? If you were to commentate on a sim race versus a real race,
Well,
it's the same sport.
let me tell you a story.
Please do.
Sim racing is 1,000 years more advanced in terms of what you've got compared to real racing. So I'm sat here at my desk where I do my remote commentary. I've got 4 big monitors. No, sorry, 3 big monitors and 1 medium monitor. I'll have 2 laptops open and all my printed stuff when I go on air. And obviously, as you well know, sim racing, you've got whatever camera your heart desires, but you can make your own stuff. You've got the wealth of data. So, first ever real race was start of this year, Portimao, and we did quali, which we don't always do in TCR, as in broadcast.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yep, here we go. Can't be that much different. Still the same thing. So off I pop to my little commentary box overlooking the track. Not a particularly great view, I might say. Boiling red hot. So, okay, I can live with that. One, I'm a Yorkshireman. I know what heat's like. Ha 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 ha. Get there. The smallest, most pathetically old CRT monitor. Well, 2. I lie. Let's not exaggerate, Paul. There were 2 monitors, but they were spitting out the same shot, which is marvellous. So anyway, I can live with that one. Now, bear in mind, it's quite a late call-up, so I'm not fully au fait with, like, which car's which and numbers and all that jazz.
Right.
So I'm sat there and I'm like, hello, everybody, welcome. Right, qualifying starting. Here's a car coming out of the garage. Yippee-ki-yay, first car hits the track, and lo and behold, it doesn't tell you what the name of the car is in the bottom left-hand corner, just like it does in sim racing. And I'm like, it's a Hyundai Elantra, I don't know. And the monitor's that damn small, I can't even see the number. So I'm like, it's a car. So, yeah. Fully, because I've got so used to having, anytime something's in shot, it highlights it on the timing stack and it usually tells you in the corner. No, not so much in real life. So, yeah, that was a surprise.
So that was a bit of a culture change then, going from sim racing to that, going from all the data to none of the data, 6 massive screens to just a window, right? Yep. But you also said that your first sim racing commentary experience, you'd never done it before, obviously, as is always the case on your first time. But you got pulled up for the SRO round 1, so it's a big deal, right? You hadn't done league racing like a lot of people have, where they go and work for free and they kind of practice. So how did you prepare? You'd seen a lot of motorsport, so you'd seen commentators in action. Did you kind of go and listen to commentators and try and get inspiration, or were you like, nah, this is going to be 100% unique Paul Jeffrey sauce, nothing else?
There is no way for me to answer that question without coming across like an absolute tool.
Well, it's a safe space,
thanks, man. Appreciate that.
It's a safe space.
Yeah, you tell that to the internet.
No one's judging here.
Yeah, no prep as such. I can talk happily and easily on any given subject for any period of time. Motor racing, and forgive the pathetic cliche, runs through my very veins. It's just all I'm just motor racing is completely and utterly what I live, breathe, and sleep for. So I never felt any problem that it would be a difficulty. And it was fine. And then obviously over time you get your unique voice. So I kind of, for that first season, was a little bit more sedate in my presentation and talking style, and a little bit more kind of like not quite as shouty, jumpy, as excited as I've sort of become over time, both as my confidence has built and I've decided that's more where I want to be is the more sort of like try and Murray Walker, but actually factually correct is what I'm going for.
Damn, well, that's the way to split the internet.
Yeah. No, I love Murray. Murray is my absolute hero, so please don't get anything
That's
wrong. But it was
footnote.
always wrong, but I still love the man.
Have you ever been nervous? Have you ever
No.
got to an event and been like, "Oh my god, this is massive"?
I don't. I mean, I'm tempting fate. So let's touch some wood. I don't tend to do nerves because it's been my life. It's you'll know what it's like when you go and do something you don't know what you're doing. It's quite nerve wracking.
Every
But
day.
when you go something you know the ins and outs of, and I'm very I'm unconfident in many ways. But when it comes to talking, I'm very confident because I know I can hold. I can kill the possibility of dead air regardless of what the situation is. So in that regard, it always come quite easily. The only nerves I ever had was again TCR. I got the nod days prior, and Portimao, obviously the first race, we had a welcome dinner at the hotel before the track action kicked off, where all the teams, drivers, mechanics, Marcello Lotte, like the god of touring cars, and I had to present it and do a speech. That was terrifying. That was terrifying because I got up and I'm like, I would have been fine doing it now, but then I didn't. I'm not au fait with who's good, who's bad, the players, so to speak, or the championship, frankly. So that was kind of like, hello, I'm from Yorkshire, and this is going to be fun.
How did you deal with the nerves then?
Closed my eyes and pretended that it wasn't there.
Okay.
No, just to be fair, we were that busy that you don't really have time to be nervous until afterwards, and then you've got alcohol. So alcohol cures that nerve.
Good. Well, see, now we've had a few commentators on before, and I always like to try and kind of extract out of the guest some kind of hint or tip, or like this is how to make it in commentary. Always remember these things. But you're saying essentially, head in the sand, drink alcohol, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
you'll be all right.
I'll be all right. No,
it'll all come out in the wash.
Exactly. No, there's one simple and easy tip. Well, two actually. Love what you do, and make sure people know you love what you do, and then put the hard yards in. I've been in sim racing 12, 13, 14 years, and I started getting paid for work that I do last year or year before. So I ain't going to make a fortune. I only started getting paid for it last 2 or 3 years. So that's like over a decade, basically, of not being paid for doing what is. And I've got no problem with this, by the way. I'm not complaining. It's just facts. What has been several hours per day, like sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day on top of a full-time job and a family. But if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, it's probably not for you.
Yeah.
Because if you want anything, you've got to work for it. It sounds like I'm saying it doesn't get handed on a plate, but I've just told you all these things that get handed on a plate. But there was a background.
It wasn't really handed on a plate because people weren't like, "Oh, there's this guy and his name is Paul Jeffrey." Yeah, that'll do. There was a significant backstory that can't be found on LinkedIn and all that. But there is a significant backstory that they can point towards. But okay, yeah, this is a safe bet.
Yeah, that's the only advice I can give. Graft. Work hard. Put the hours in, put the effort in, and just love. Don't forget that, and I try and remind myself this every single day. Don't forget that you are a very, very lucky. Oh God, a cat's broken into the room. Not professional. Sorry. Please go away, Murray. Oh no, this is a nightmare. I was dreading this. It's okay. We'll just pretend that's not happening.
Paul's has just opened the door and walked in, and is now climbing all over the rig. But it's fine.
Fine, he's trying to. Hello, Murray. So, for the benefit of those of you at home, this is Murray, named after Murray Walker. Hello, Murray.
Named after Murray Walker.
Yes, I've got Murray and Shelby, named after Carol Shelby.
Do they share anything in common?
Apart from being really annoying. So we'll just pretend he's not there. Oh no, Shelby's here too. So yeah, work hard. No, just remind yourself that you're very, very lucky to do what you do. Don't take anything for granted. Be reliable, be professional, be friendly, and hopefully those should be the keys to success.
It's interesting that it should be, right? Because actually you can put in all the graft, you could be the most passionate person in the world, you could show everyone that you're passionate, but then never get that big break.
Yeah.
You kind of have to accept it. You kind of, if you're not prepared to accept it, then you don't love it enough, right? You have to accept that it's a gamble.
Precisely. I mean, and that you actually, Tom, you've nailed it. Because, like I said, I did all these years where there was not paid projects and there's substantial work. I love what I do.
Yeah.
Love giving back. Love talking about motor racing. And and again, this is really sickly, but I always say that if one person didn't know what sim racing was before engaging with something I've done, and then now likes sim racing and enjoys it to the level I enjoy it, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
And I think if you've got that kind of mentality, and it shouldn't be about chasing dollars, because let's be honest, even professional, like the top tier of commentary, the Martin Havens or David Addisons or Crofty or whatever, they don't make a lot of money. So it ain't a money making exercise.
They have the most incredible life.
Exactly. Yeah, and you see, and I mean, for example, I were in Italy the other day. We finished the studio stuff, and then on an evening, it was only a short couple of hours after a very long day in the studio, we went to Bergamo Old Town in Italy, which is the most sensationally attractive place I have ever seen in my life. Big steep hills, cobble streets, old buildings, an ancient wall and castle, and really like stereotype. There was even an old Fiat 500 parked up, which is just like, could not be more Italian.
Inspiration for tonight?
Say again?
The inspiration for tonight?
Yeah. No, the inspiration for tonight is I've not driven on AC for like 5 years, so I went for the easiest thing I could think of. That was the inspiration. That's for inspiration. But you see some great things, you meet some wonderful people, you experience some fantastic things, and gotta love it, man. Life's short.
As well as talking about sim racing, you write about it too. So you're the editor-in-chief at Race Department. And for those of you who don't know who Race Department is an institution in sim racing. It is the place to go for content, mods, downloads, etc. It's fantastic. It's where I learned most of what I learned about sim racing in the early days. And of course, was interviewed by Paul on the Race Department channel. I brought Grid Finder out in the early days. So what's that like? Because you've got a lot of writers. I noticed there's a broad spectrum. What's your role? Do you have to comb through them all and make sure they're written well and make sure that they're on the tone that you're looking for? Do you kind of split up the categories you try and hit? Like, how does it work?
Well, here's a sad story, unfortunately. So, been at RD for well over a decade. Well over. And at the time, I was pretty much the sole writer. And then did the video content and the reviews and blah, blah, all that good stuff. Sadly, last year, we lost my brother, unfortunately. Second brother, sadly, I've lost of two, so I'm the last of the Jeffreys. And that, as you can imagine, wasn't a pleasant time. So I dialed into Bram and just said, like, can't be coping with this at this moment in time. Yeah. So I've kind of been on a sabbatical. So Mick died the end of May 2021. So I've been absent in effect, apart from a few things that I've had to do courtesy of other commentary commitments, like writing the review articles and previews for Ferrari, for example. So I've kind of been absent since then. And in my absence, we've obviously stocked up on a number of content creators and writers and everything like that, which is great because it's better to do it that way, because if, like this, a bad circumstance comes around and I get taken out of the picture, there's no plan B. So to answer your question is, prior to my sabbatical, for want of a better way of putting it, it was just down to me. So just troll, create, publish kind of thing, and we tried to do some deep dive stuff, like talk to the devs and all that kind of thing, and give a little bit of insight. But what was amazing about my time there, I'm still there, by the way, I've just not come back to it properly yet. What was really, really sensational about it is we were, or we are still, independent. So we're not owned by anybody or anything. And Bram had enough trust in me that I could do what I want, kind of thing. So I can write anything I feel like. So we weren't there are some outlets and some people who shall remain nameless that have a little bit too close for comfort association with various different pieces of software or companies. So obviously, they have a vested interest in talking positively about something or negatively about something.
Yeah.
Well, we had none of that. And
Yeah.
I'm friendly with all the developers, so it's not like I've got a personal favourite or relationship with any one dev. So it was great. If I think something was garbage, I could say it was garbage. If I think something was good, I could say it was good. If I wanted to focus on a particular thing, we could go and do that. And it were really, really good time. I think that was quite well appreciated as well by the audience out there, because it is clearly independent, and it's clearly, hopefully over the last decade plus, people are relatively trusting of my opinion, that I've got no ulterior motive. It's just purely, this is what I feel. Your mileage may differ than mine, but this is my opinion based on nothing other than this is my opinion. And that was a really, really nice time. But how it quite works now, I'm not sure. And I need to find a way to magic more hours in the week in order to be able to find my way back there. But that's easier said than done. I will. I'm going to bottle it and sell it, man. If I find it, no more stupid commentating on one CRT screen. I'm going to be flogging free time to people.
What was the writing process? Because I quite enjoy writing. I've done a few articles about this, that, and the other, and I used to on the original Grid Finder when it was on Wix, the website builder. That's why I'm not a dev. I don't know how to do the colorful text, or the matrix stuff. But there was a built-in blog function. I thought, I'm going to give this a go. And I did the classic thing, which was review my own wheel and pedals. But I thought, some of these reviews can be really boring. So I thought, I'm going to just make it a little bit more interesting and maybe kind of add an anecdote or something in there. And I quite enjoyed it. It was quite like a cathartic process. I've done the odd thing on LinkedIn in days past about boats and Navy stuff. But what was your approach?
Again, speak from the heart. So, because I know I'm repeating myself, but in a different context, because I really love what I do, it became very easy. So obviously, like, depending on what the piece is, if there's a news piece, so I'm going to use a Formula One thing, so I can't think of anything sim racing. Fernando Alonso signs for Minardi. There's obviously got to be a quote in there, and there's obviously got to articulate the fact that he's gone from place A to place B. Yeah. And then the rest of it is just sort of adding padding around it, maybe throwing a bit of an opinion in there, a bit of speculation in there, what that might mean and stuff. So it was kind of dependent on the piece itself. I mostly enjoyed opinion pieces. Yeah. Because I like to stir the poo-poo a little bit. So I like an opinion piece. Because, you may not have noticed, but people on the internet tend to have an opinion. And
do
they are quite keen on sharing it with you.
So, have you ever had to deal with like a particularly vitriolic? Okay, so how was that? Soul destroying. I have very thin skinned. So personal attacks or criticisms. And I know everyone needs to be criticised, because how can you get better if you don't recognise and acknowledge where you maybe need to be stronger? Right. But it goes a bit far sometimes. And I've seen that in Race Department. I've seen it at Studio 397 with R Factor. I've seen it in my commentary, in all different series. And it hurts. Yeah. And I find it very, very difficult. And again, I'm trying to keep the tone light. So let's not go too deep on that. But having gone through a rough ass couple of years out with other things, I'm not in the best place emotionally. So that kind of like gets heavy very quickly. Then you just got to try and do what I said earlier, actually. Sit back and smell the roses and say, I feel useless, I feel worthless, I feel like an imposter, blah, 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 crap. But take a look around you, sunshine. You're living dream. Don't be so bloody miserable and crack on. And that doesn't always work. But it's a nice way of doing it, because in life, there is always someone that's got it rougher than you've got it. Even if you think you've got it rough, there's always someone worse off. So, spread a little sunshine. I suppose you had a bit of a unique position, or maybe not unique, but less usual position, that you criticised, you said yourself, people in your own articles, but not criticised in just, slander, like kind of a comment. comment on a game, this is rubbish. The devs need to have a good hard look at themselves. I assume I haven't read all of your articles, but I'm assuming that
I did a video on that topic for NASCAR Heat 5. The massive irony that the people that developed NASCAR Heat 5 are now my employer. Not lost on me.
delete that from the internet wherever you
let's make that go away. No, I still stand by it. I've told them it's garbage. But
and then so that's I find that really interesting. So you must have then come into contact with people who might have had responsibilities for that project. If you write a piece in race department or on race department and you say this is garbage, and that's the tone of the whole thing, and it's garbage for X, Y, and Z reasons, and that's my opinion. When you then meet these people and you speak to them, do you double down or do you try and add more context, or both?
Both. I mean, I won't put something into print or vocalize something if I don't believe in it. Yes, my opinion might change if given a different perspective. But when if you're reviewing something, for example, there's not really another perspective to have. It's good or it's not.
Yeah.
Somebody else's opinion ain't going to change the fact that you came across X, Y, and Z problem, or it leaves something to be desired. And I'm not afraid. I don't like confrontation. Obviously, I don't want to confrontate, but I've been around long enough and I've got a solid enough relationship with people, and I'm not a douchebag. Hopefully, I think that you can have those constructive conversations and say, "Hey, yeah, I said it was rubbish, and let's be frank, it is because." But I always try and validate it. I don't just go blanket. This is garbage.
And Race Department gets a huge amount of views. So every one of your articles, is going to be read by a lot of people, and a good portion of them are going to comment on it. So when you're writing an article, are you conscious of that when you're writing it? As you're writing, are you thinking, I wonder if I'm opening up the door here for a comment, or I wonder how this is going to be perceived by people who are in my space?
I probably should. But that would mean I have to think a bit about it, which is, I don't have a filter. No, I do to a degree. Yeah. I'm a glass half full guy, for sure. So you'll always kind of like, I'll use the NASCAR Heat 5, which I really, really do think's a steaming pile of poo, until NASCAR Ignition 21 came out, which somehow is multitudes worse on every level, which is impressive how horrendous that game is. But with NASCAR Heat 5, they still had good things. So you still look at some of the good, like the oval pack racing was really fun. And the whole, it'll tell you who your bump draft partner is, or if there's a teammate or somebody that's got an association with you that you can pal up with, and you can go and bump draft with. And that's really, really good. Everything else was junk. But that part was solid. So you have to kind of balance. It's weights and measures, obviously. And I'm not interested in going in. And I am not naming names because they don't deserve the airtime. But there are certain outlets in history that made their entire USP about crap talking and about and often massively far from being true what they were saying. Again, I've been targeted by them. Hey, I'm famous. So I'm not into any of that. I'm not into any of the clickbaity rubbish. It's just, it'll always be my honest opinion, but sometimes that honest opinion might garner more controversy. For example, once upon a time, a few years ago, I had the audacity to suggest that Lewis Hamilton's maybe not as good as the 5 world championships that he had at the time.
Right, Paul, I'm going to have to edit this out of the podcast. I'm sorry. This is.
Oh, you a fan? Are you a fan?
This is not making that. No, I just. The Lewis fans and the Max fans, they can be as bad as each other. So any opinions on Formula One? It's a shame. It's a shame because there was a time where you could have an opinion that could be different to somebody else's, and that was fine.
Yeah, and you could have a conversation about it and actually maybe even learn a bit of something.
More about the other person's perspective.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Our fashion there, isn't it?
And that perfectly sums up the point I was making. I put an opinion piece on there that's potentially controversial, and that garnered an incredible fistfight and firefight amongst people, which is weird because I'm a relatively straight up guy, and I like having a different opinion to somebody else, and then having a converse about it. And you never know. Hell, I might even be proven wrong at the end of it, and go, you know what? Your point of view has changed my opinion.
Well, life would be pretty boring if everybody had the same opinions, and life would also
Yeah,
be quite boring if you never changed your mind about anything.
exactly. That's the tapestry of life, isn't it? The
Mm.
variety is the spice of life, and people see things with different eyes and different views. And I really enjoy that. And I enjoy the engagement factor, but I don't know whether it's because, I don't know actually, whether it's just the world is going down the toilet. But there
Well,
seems to be more and more vitriol out there, which is particularly bizarre in sim racing because it's quite a niche
it
thing.
is.
It's
It's
got
quite
quite an expensive way to get into it, and if you're
Mm.
going to waste your time, so to speak, on a portal somewhere on the internet communicating about sim racing, why do you? I always say this. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Make a note of the time because you're going to have to edit this because it's got a swear word in it.
That's fine.
But it needs to have a swear word in it, otherwise it doesn't work. It's you see people going to forums and like,
Yeah.
let's say you post a news piece, R Factor 2 releases Car B, and then it's all, why don't they do this? Oh, it's not as good as iRacing, and it's like translate that to real life for a moment. So somebody's taken their time to go into something to then say they don't like it. Now, I don't like celery, so I don't go to farmers markets and
What the
stand
hell's
next
wrong
to a
with
store.
celery?
It's horrible. But I don't go to a farmer's market and point at a stall and go, that shit is that. Just don't bother because I don't like it. So I go eat something I do. So why do you go on a forum onto a game that you don't like to tell people you don't like it? But not even to articulate why and to put a critique together as to why that game could get better. It's just to go and essentially say, this is rubbish and my sim's bigger than yours.
Mm,
But what you're supposed to enjoy the
yeah.
environment this is supposed to be fun.
Do you know what I think it is, right? And we are getting a bit deep now. But do you know what I think it is? I think it's because people tend to follow examples, and the media sets the example, and the media likes to post drama. And a negative headline will always gain a lot more traction than a positive headline. And so people are bombarded with negativity and criticism and drama all the time. So now the internet has given everybody their own platform. Whenever they post, they're following the example they are set by the media, which is to post negative, controversial, demeaning in some cases comments, because they're like, well, that's what the Sun and the Daily Mail and the Telegraph do. So, that's what I'm going to do because I want to be on the same platform.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And and ladies and gentlemen, that's why the world is a very sad place in which we live in 2022.
No. Abort. It's great. We'll get through this, and there's enough good people out there to turn the ship around.
Yeah, no, there is.
What's
There
your
is.
thoughts on moderation?
Yeah.
Do you moderate comments in race department?
We have moderators. I don't personally. Time constraints from my side, but we have fantastic moderators. Kenny Patton, I don't know if he's still there, and Andrew as well. They're the unsung heroes of RD. They keep people in check. They steer the ship back on its right course again. When you get the usual sort of like crew that come in deliberately to derail everything. So it's a thankless job. It must be an incredibly frustrating job because they are literally the brunt. They are the shovel that scoops the poo into the dustbin. So massive kudos to those guys and anybody else that's now doing it since I've not been as daily involved. It's incredible, actually.
What are the rules of thumb by which they operate? So what are the guidelines that they are set? Are they chosen because they seem to have a generally decent set of values that they can just apply, according to their own opinion, or is there a bit of a, does it hit this and this criteria to be removed?
Yeah, there's that. There's obviously, we try desperately not to remove anything if we can help it. We don't want to censor. We'd rather the conversation become sensible again before we need to go in there. So there's like terms of service that you signed up to when you become part of race department. So you know what it's like: no hate speech, don't personal attack people, blah de blah de blah. The bog standard stuff that you get in any reasonable part of the internet. And then the people who do it, race department, despite, you said it earlier, they're massive, and I can't remember the figures, but we're talking sensationally large. But it's still a big community. It's not a business. So we're all volunteers. So we all do it in our own free time because we want to. So there's an element of, if you've got that kind of mentality and you wish to be a moderator, then you're probably a damn decent person anyway. and you've got a strong moral compass and good values, and you follow the guidelines, you use a little bit of common sense, and yeah, it bobs along quite nicely actually. But it's, as I say, I haven't got the tolerance for that because I cannot stand idiots. So there'd be nobody at race department. I just ban everybody the second they even think about what stepping out of line. So real massive, like they're like the marshals in motor racing.
Right.
People, that never get any credit, that don't get the accolades. No one asks for their autograph or a photo, but it'd be absolutely pointless if they weren't there, and impossible, in fact, if they weren't there. And that's moderators. So big up moderators the world over. You're superstars, the lot of you.
I love it. So you have two similar roles that you have, the obviously on a hiatus at the moment, but editor-in-chief of Race Department and then community manager for Studio 397. Now, there must be some differences there because with Race Department, as you said, you're completely independent. Whereas with Studio 397, it's obviously there in order to service Studio 397 and R Factor 2, etc. So do you have to take a different approach with people, with opinions, with conversations that happen? Like, do you have to be a little bit more restrictive?
Yes. And it makes it even more complex that obviously Studio, I can't remember how long ago it was. No, not long ago. Were purchased by Motorsport Games, and Motorsport Games are on the stock exchange. Yeah. So there's also a whole bunch of things that you must and must not do if you were one of these kind of that's boring. No one cares about that. It's just it is what it is. Yeah. So there's definitely a different tone. But actually, in studio, we're really lucky that we've actually got a very opinionated and fired up community, but they're also really good at self-moderating. So if someone comes in there that's intent on trouble, there's like a core group of people that will kind of like put that fire out almost amongst themselves, which is actually, it's really impressive to see. Yeah. And as a general rule, very strongly opinionated. Obviously, of course we are, because of what R Factor 2 is. It's not a computer game, it's a heavy duty racing simulator. So if something's not bang on what it needs to be to one-to-one real, then we'll be jumped on. Yeah. And they do tests that you would not ever think. I love it. I love reading it. Someone will like, yep. So I got car X and went on the skid track and got the Motec data up, and then did a static test and then modded some weight on the front suspension when not moving and turned it 3 degrees. Then went into my car and tested that one and then validated it by the. And you think, wow,
that's crazy.
That's impressive, and has brought up a flow that we would never have found, because that's just wow. That's indent. So I love actually our community. We get opinionated strongly from time to time, but they're all like me for the vast majority, in that realism is king, and they place such an incredibly high value on authenticity, which is exactly what we're like at the studio. So it's actually a joy in that regard. And actually, it's actually quite difficult sometimes, because we all want what they want, but we have a limited resource and capacity to make things happen. So it becomes difficult sometimes to, within the confines that I've just spoken about, be honest and straight up why we can't do something or why we haven't done something, which we really should be seen to have done, but certain reasons why that's not feasible. And I'm not afraid to be honest. So as anybody who's DM'd me on Discord or whatever, you ask me a question, you'll get an answer. That's no problem, which can be dangerous. And that's another reason why I'm living the dream now, because I will be cancelled for saying something I shouldn't at some stage. So I need to make, hey, well, that sun does shine, because I'm just too honest.
Well, I always think this. So on our Grid Finder Discord, we've nearly 1,600 league owners in our Discord, and they will give us feedback about Grid Finder. And occasionally, often, to be honest, they will complain and they'll say, this should be actually like that, or we should really add this, or I don't like this new feature, it should be a bit more like this. And when you read it, you're like, oh, God, are we well off the mark here? And then I think, you know what? They complain because they care. If they didn't care and they weren't interested in sticking around on Grid Finder for a little while, they wouldn't bother complaining. Because I very rarely complain, but there's a couple of platforms online that I use that I absolutely love. I complain about them or make suggestions, I should say. I don't really complain. I make suggestions far more than anywhere else. And I don't really complain anywhere else. But because I care, because I love this platform, and I think, oh my God, this could be incredible. So I'm going to suggest, in this particular use case, why not try that? And, you get... this is going to be a really random example, but there's a platform called Seed Legals, and it's like kind of legal help for startups. And
that is random, you're right.
It is very random. But the CEO responded to me about, I had this thing about how you could split up your communication with various areas of the business. And he said, oh, that's great. And then 6 months later, they're implementing this system. And I thought, right, nice. I am now a customer forever because I loved it. I saw the potential. I made a suggestion. It was responded to. But I think I'd have been a customer forever, even if they were like, we like it, but actually we're going to go a different direction. I'm like, well, they considered it. That's awesome. Yep. So I think Studio 397, if they had absolutely nobody saying to them, oh, I didn't like this, or actually that should be slightly this, or this curb's actually higher, I was there last week. If they didn't do that, it's because they don't care.
And that's exactly 1000% right. The day you need to really worry is when it goes radio silent.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you. And that passion's what drives us. That's why I do what I do. Again, the money's not as I could easily earn more in quote unquote the real world. The hours are insane, the work's intense, but you love what you do. And very, very grateful to play a really small part in a bigger cog that makes our Factor 2 what it is, or whatever thing it is. Because I've got a point now, I'm 38 years old, and I've got a point now where I'm not really wanting to do anything unless I fully believe in it. Gone are the days where you just do whatever you need to do to get by. I'm not well off by any stretch of imagination, but I don't have to take any old junk. So that's why I love what I do, because we thoroughly believe in the product, and it's not a job. It's a way of life. I was with in Italy at the weekend. Whenever. I don't even know what day it is, man. A short period of time ago.
You're on the Sim Sundays podcast.
That should be yes. That's maybe a hint. It could be. It's Wednesday, isn't it?
It is Wednesday. Yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah, but no. I was with Aris from Kunos. We were talking about it the other day.
Previous guest on the show.
Yeah, really lovely guy. I really enjoy Aris's company, and we were talking about this exact same thing. It's not a job; it's a way of life. So you might work as in physically, like outputting something for 13, 14 hours or whatever it is, but you're on for 24. You're thinking all the time. It's in the forefront of your mind. Stupid stuff like you're thinking, again, this weekend, I need to go out and, I don't know, shop. I'll have to shop at 7 o'clock then, because I want to do this, and this first, or I'd like to be around for this piece of information. I'd like to be available. And you're planning your whole life around your work, which there's no way on earth I would plan my life around my work if it wasn't something like this. It's 9 to 5, and then when I leave at 5 o'clock, I can't be out of there quick enough. Yeah. But this becomes the second child, so to speak, and that's the only way you can ever be successful, if you're fully, and I'm sure you're exactly the same with Grid Finder, you're fully invested in it, or don't do it, because then you're not giving everything to yourself, and you're not giving you're not adding the value that you should be adding to whoever it is that's trusted you to do whatever it is you're doing.
I completely agree, and actually, it's made me rethink something I've been saying for a few months now, which is I hate that phrase, find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life, because that's nonsense. Find something you like and you will work 14, 15-hour days, 7 days a week, forever.
Yeah, exactly. For much less reward. Yeah.
But I suppose if you recategorize what is work, then all right, well then now we're into semantics, aren't we? But like the idea of you find something you love, it's easy. It's easy then. You just coast along, you just play games all day. It's great. It's like, nah, you don't. So where are you heading? What's the plan? What's the Paul Jeffrey pipeline?
In commentary terms, it's really, again, very cheesy, but it feels like it's what I'm supposed to do. I love everything about it. Mm-hmm. So more and more. If anybody's listening, by the way, or watching, depending on your platform of choice, available at all good podcast outlets. My name's Paul Jeffrey. I have bag and will travel. So available available for work.
Valid passport.
Yeah,
Got
exactly.
your booster. You're ready to go.
I say I'm invincible. Some might say, and I've discovered East Midlands Airport as well, which is so much better than Manchester. It is just frightening. I went through security the other day. I was the only person there, to the point where I actually asked to be searched just to fill a bit of time because I'm way early for the flight.
So I was looking at, this is a bit of a random comment, but I was looking at our analytics of the podcast today just out of interest. I noticed that we had 2 or 3 people in Ecuador listening. This will be the most random conversation ever. East Midlands Airport versus Manchester Airport. Basically, don't worry about it. Please don't Google it. It's not important.
Yeah. Okay, let's put it into terms that you'll understand. East Midlands is next to Donington Park, which is the best UK racetrack, and Manchester is famous for Oasis, which are the best 90s indie bands. So there you go. But no, I want to do more. Obviously, sim racing is my be all and end all, my sort of like first love, etc. I like projects. I'm loving what I do for Ferrari, for SRO. I've got a couple of ones that are not announced yet that I'm very excited about.
Nice.
I also want to do more real racing this season.
Do you have a series in mind? Do you have like a head mark, like this? If I get this, then I will have achieved my career goal. Is there something that you want to do?
Going back to the fact about investing yourself fully in something, I very much enjoy helping. And when I say helping, maybe I'm more of a hindrance. I don't know. Helping build something from the ground up.
Okay.
So I'm interested, of course, in going to something quote big, but I would rather than going into something established as a new person, I would rather be in the trenches helping someone make something big. I was there for day one of SRO, there for day one of Ferrari, there for day one of Lamborghini, but I'm no longer there because obviously I work for Ferrari. I'd much rather do that than, let's say, become the new F1 esports commentator. Although I'd like to, because it's high profile, even though I don't really like the series. So I'd like to do that.
Hopefully they're not listening then.
Honestly, you see, told you, do all this, we'll get cancelled. Here for a limited time only. I'm like a seasonal Mars bar. So I'm only here in the summer. You'll not see me again. Yeah, and in real racing, I love racing, man.
Well,
I just love racing. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be Grand Prix, could be endurance, Citroen 2 CV Cup, bikes, trucks, cars. Enduro car that I'm still waiting for a invite to drive that one.
Come along to Brands Hatch in November.
But yeah, anything, man. I absolutely love the sights, the sounds, the people, the smells, the thrill of competition. In fact, to be honest with you, often the higher profile racing series are a little bit less exciting than the lower profile ones. So everything and anything, man. If people pay me to watch motorsport and shout like an idiot at it, I mean, come on. I can think of other jobs that are better than that, but they're not family friendly. So you can't get better than that.
I've just spent the weekend at Alton Park racing our Enduro car team. So Gridfinder's a little Enduro car team. We had Jem Hepworth driving, myself and Toby from Gridfinder, and we had Scott Mansell from Driver 61 in the car. We came P5 out of 33, and it was honestly one of the best weekends I've ever had. We just laughed for like 4 days solidly. It was so much fun, and the whole paddock is full of people just loving life, except for the one car that did roll it in the first 5 minutes of qualifying. They were less loving life, but everybody was having generally a great time, and the commentator was walking around and doing this a stream to the Facebook page, just getting little interviews with everyone, and not many people are watching, but it's not the point. You're there for you were saying about the roar of the cars. Well, for us, it's kind of the gentle whirring of the engine as
1.3 stream,
as they scream down the straight at 80 kilometers an hour. but it's brilliant.
Yeah, and in something like that, it's the old clubman spirit, isn't it? Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's in it because they love what they're doing, and they all want everybody else to enjoy it as well. So there's none of the whole. I did a bit of karting, never racing. It only got to testing because we didn't have €2, pound coins, dollars, depending on where you are in the world, to rub together. But everybody in that little paddock was sort of like in it for the love
Yeah.
of what they were doing. So, like, you're struggling to get the car started, 3 or 4 people will wander over and give you a hand. Whereas in a more serious championship, they probably put a bit of sugar in your tank to make sure you can't get started because it's one less competitor. And I love that. I love. I am a competitive person, but at the same time, when it comes to racing, I would sooner finish 15th with 3 cars right in front and 3 cars right behind than dominate at the front, because winning for winning's sake doesn't appeal to me. I just love racing.
So, shall we race?
Do we have to? Because I'm rubbish.
So am I. And honestly, I got back from Morton Park a couple of hours ago, and I've walked across here to do the podcast. I have not turned a lap, and I've decided to use the H pattern shifter. So
good man. You're doing that.
We'll just go nice and gently around the track. It'll be fine. So
fabulous.
We will head over now to the track. If anybody wants to join us, they go to Assetto Corsa, look on your online lobbies via Content Manager, whatever you use, and search for Grid Finder, Sim Sundays, anything like that, and we will come up. We are racing the R-Bath at Silverstone National.
Woohoo! Which I need to say it. Oh, go on, Tom. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, as chosen by you.
Indeed. So before I migrate over to the rig, because I'm at the desk, I'm going to throw every excuse I've got available as to why I'm horrendously poor. I've not driven AC for 5 years. I've not driven this car for 6 years. I've done 0 testing. And, like all good commentators, that's why I talk about it rather than do it.
I smell a hustler.
I'm right. So
right,
I've got
if you're moving across, I'm going to go out and start doing some laps. We've got a few cars in the pit lane, so...
Well, I've got 1,000 things I've been warned by Mike I need to shut down to avoid echo. So I'm going to shut these things down now and see you in a few moments.
Okay, I'm going to start some laps at Silverstone National. Now, Silverstone is one of my favourite tracks, but the Silverstone GP is that track. I love the Silverstone GP track. The National, oh my goodness, the National confuses the hell out of me because it's so similar in the, it is the same track, but there's so many subtle differences as you go around. I never know where the hell I am. I think my mistake is that I'm always trying to compare the National, like, where is this on the GP? Okay, so what does that mean for the next corner? And inevitably it's completely different. So I do struggle with it quite a lot. But that's fine. This is not a competitive... Oh my goodness. Come on, let's get it on. I don't know if Paul's there anymore. Is Paul left? I love the R-Bath car in Assetto Corsa. We've actually been using the R-Bath as a bit of practice for enduro car. It's the closest car to the 4K that we could find. Although we did, I say we, not me. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Chris Hay,
I'm back.
He rated it, he powered it so that it was similar-ish to the 4K. So it's basically just made it slower. And then we were using it for practice. It was quite handy. It was, it wasn't exactly the same, but you could get your braking points, your turn-in points.
So are you saying, Tom, that you're attributing the Chris's mod to your 5th place success at Alton Park?
Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank him. I'd like to dedicate the P5 to him.
I love that. Fellow sim racer Chris Hay. Hello, Chris, if you're watching. It really winds him up, that. Every time I see him, every single time, I'll just shout really loud, "It's fellow sim racer Chris Hay!" And it really upsets.
I asked him about it on our podcast. I said, you've got quite a distinct brand with, the hat and Hello Fellow Sim Racers. But he said that the Hello Fellow Sim Racers has been hijacked. I think it was Jardier, or maybe Sim Racing 604. I can't remember who he said. I'll have to go back to that episode and listen to it. But he said that somebody else is now saying Hello Fellow Sim Racers, so he's had to retire his own USP.
No, that's uncool. We need to start some kind of motion.
We need to get some solicitors on the case.
We do. I think the power of the people. We said about this. People on the internet have an opinion. I reckon we can. I reckon we can win over.
I don't think we'd be short of opinions. I've blown up my engine. I haven't.
Are you joking already?
No, it wouldn't be the first time, but I haven't. I did, so the second episode we ever had was Danny Juicer from Kavana Sim Racing and organiser of the Sim Racing Expo. He came on the show and we did some NASCAR things around
nice.
Watkins Glen. And that was back in the days before we did the track day format that we do now, and we did a proper kind of scheduled. Oh, hey, hello. Proper. Oh my goodness, that was a save and a half. I hope I'm
going to slow down. I'm going to slow down and wait for you so I can see some of this wild driving. I'm on the back straight. Oh, nice.
So
drive for the win.
Yeah. So Dan. So I blew up my engine in literally the first lap, and obviously it wasn't a track day. So I was like, well, okay, well this is going to be boring watching now because I think it was one of the first episodes. We only had like 4 or 5 people on the track, and one of them had a blown up engine. So we spent the rest of the race with Daddy just trying to bump draft me the whole way around the track and get into the pits.
Nice.
It was quality viewing.
I'm starting to think now the sedateness of this car could have been a bit of a mistake in terms of like visual enjoyment for the audience.
This is perfect. I'm loving this,
Should have gone for an AC Cobra around somewhere like Black Cat Mountain or something. Goodness. That would have been a score.
Well, next time you're on, Paul, we'll do the AC Cobra at Black Cat Mountain. We had GP laps on.
I bet that was a good combination he picked.
Oh, it was fantastic. So he chose the Lotus. Was it the 49?
Oh, nice.
And it was, I think it was, no, maybe it wasn't the 49. Anyway, it was one of the Lotus Formula 1 cars. And it was at Watkins Glen, but it was a modded 60s version of the track. So obviously, his speciality is, of course, classic sim racing. So he chose the perfect on-brand combination. Well, his community did. He put it up for vote, and it was brilliant. But it was so hard. I hadn't done much classic car driving around. It's one of those cars you plant your foot. Oh, nice. Yeah, that looked pretty cool, Paul. In the rearview mirror, you go sideways around that corner.
Yeah, that's like a skill and cold. You see, it's ironic that I've picked this because this is like as far away from being appropriate to everything I do. I like classic cars and I work for R Factor. So what have I done? I've picked a slow front-wheel drive car in Assetto Corsa.
Well, I have to admit, this is perfect for me because I spent the whole weekend driving a slow front-wheel drive.
Yeah, well, this is true. You see, what it was, Mike caught me off guard because while I was in Italy, he sent me a WhatsApp. He's like, don't forget you need to pick your car and track, dude. I'm like, I'm really busy. I've got 3 seconds. I'll voicemail him. Feet him off. Silverstone. So it's kind of like zero thought went into this, which I do apologise for. But I went for something easy. And you know what? This has reminded me, actually, that AC is still a very tasty simulation indeed, even though it's old.
It's kept alive by the modders, right?
Yeah, but I'm running my copy. It's got none of the shaders on or anything. I'm just literally running it stock, and it still looks pretty.
You're not using the Soul or anything like that?
No, I reinstalled it like an hour before we came on air. So it's a miracle that actually my steering wheel works. But it looks great. It doesn't look bad at all. And I always found, like the shaders and the content manager and stuff. Yeah. It just kind of like, it boggled me a little bit when I tried to work out how to do it. And I just went,
yeah,
I haven't got time for this.
It's kind of incredible though, the amount of detail that content manager goes into. And it's how much do you pay for it? Oh yeah, it's free. So it's just done by someone who's just passionate about AC, who just wants to make it better for everyone. I remember asking Aris about this. I was like, how do you kind of react to that? Is it a problem? Is it a bad look for Assetto Corsa that you have somebody filling what they see to be as gaps, and then that product being so popular that the only conclusion that you can come to is that a lot of people think there's gaps, and it turns out actually they work quite closely with him and help him out on it, and they actually like the fact that it's a community project that makes it better for everyone.
And I think it's a brilliant thing, and it just again goes to show, doesn't it, when we were talking earlier in the podcast about passion and loving what you do and putting the hard yards in. I guarantee the guy or guys or however many people are involved that did that will leverage a career in the industry further down the line, because they've shown the skill, they've had the platform, they've put it out there, and people like that are people who succeed, rather than those of us that sit at home going, "Ooh, I could have done that." Well, go do it then. Show the world. And they've gone and shown the world, and that's why I've got all the respect in the world for modders. So the amount of work they put in, and I talk to a lot of different modders for all the platforms, and they're like if they're modding a car, I've known some of these guys to go out and get them on a rolling road, the real car, and get under it just to make a mod for free.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm a good 3D artist and I've just slapped some physics on that I think feel right. And bless him, God rest his soul, Sean Clark. He worked with a lot of the Janetta teams to get, I think Dan Kirby was one of the guys that worked a lot with him, to get his Janetta mods as absolutely accurate as it could be, working with telemetry data, driver feel. Oh, hello. And yeah, the level there, where are you doing? Where are you going?
I seem to have stopped.
You do seem to have stopped. I thought you were letting me past have a race, but apparently...
Have you stopped?
No, I've not stopped. I'm still going.
Okay, I'm going to have to take my jacket off because I'm using the H pattern shifter and I forget that whenever I use the H pattern shifter, I get unnaturally sweaty. And it's the smallest little motion, but it seems to just send me over the edge of like just casually having a bit of a drive. And then, right, okay, this is now exercise.
Yeah, well, I will admit to the world, I have cheated slightly with this one in that I've disconnected my H pattern shifter because that felt like it would be a bridge too far with this severe lack of preparation. So I'm going flappy paddled, which it hurts me not using the H shifter, but heel and toe is just a little bit too much, I think, at this stage.
Right, yeah. So what's tell us about your rig then. I saw some pictures recently of your new office setup and it looks incredible. What are you using?
Cheers, dude. So the rig I'm on at the moment, so I've got a couple of rigs, a Formula rig and a GT rig. So I'm on the GT rig at the moment. We've got SimLab P1 aluminium profile cockpit, as is an incredible piece of kit. I've made a few adjustments to it, so I've put a secondary transmission tunnel on the side. I've put a service seems to be unavailable for some reason. Are we still going? Are we still drumming?
I was trying to style it out in a professional way, but I've just had to restart it. So you might have to.
No worries.
Leave and rejoin.
I'll keep chitter chattering then.
Yeah.
So yeah, the SimLab rig, and then wheel. I use the Leo Bodner Sim Steering version 2, which I had a unit to test for race department back in the day.
What's that? So say that again. That's the wheel.
The actual wheelbase, the motor.
Oh, okay. Right.
Is the Leo Bodner Sim Steering V2. Phenomenally expensive, but my God, is it good. I got it second hand. I got really lucky. But if you want to buy one new just for the motor, you're talking like $3,500.
Oh my.
Yeah, God. Man. But
that's crazy.
They are sensational. They are absolutely sensational. So that's that. I've got a whole array. I'm addicted, absolutely, categorically addicted to wheel rims. So I've got a whole bunch. And big shout.
The wall display.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
I've got it. It's even got illuminated flashing LEDs and everything.
Nice.
And I bumped into a company who I'm massively impressed with. They're only a couple of guys. They're Italian guys, but one's based in England, one's based in UK, called VPG Sim. And they make like custom wheel rims and stuff, but they're not like 3D printed jobs. They're made out of like actual carbon and metal and proper rock solid. And for me personally, it's the best. I think they're the best in the industry. They're absolutely brilliant. So I've got like a Formula style one that they call their Elemento, and I've got the Porsche 911 GT3 replica. That like everybody has, sort of thing. But the quality, mate, seriously, drop it on your foot, it'd break it. They're absolutely dynamite.
So they are heavy then. So you need a direct drive probably for it to.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're not heavy as in like, wow, that's unreasonably heavy. They're still like relatively light for what they are, but they're heavy in terms of like you can tell this is.
They're industrial units.
Yeah, It's a piece of something that's not gonna knacker up after a 3-hour race kind of thing. It's going to be good for life kind of malarkey. I'm so impressed with those guys. I've actually got a LCD dashboard thing on order that hopefully will come, touch wood, this month. So I just like my gear. So I've got the whole like you do, the flag box, the replica Oh no, I forgot what you call it. What's that blue thing that race cars have that has like the LCD display on it and the timing and stuff? What do you call them? Race Logic, thank you, Matt.
Or AIM or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so I've got the replica Race Logic thing on there, a couple of button boxes, a BDH shifter, which relatively recently arrived, and that is rock solid.
Right.
That is fantastic, and great guys as well. Analogs, AO-logs, or whatever you call them, sequential, and handbrake, and then like your usual array of like sort of button boxes, wind simulator, vibration cushion, and all that jazz.
I do love the way that you and then all the usual accessories. It sounds like it is quite the setup, but then I think that's something that's quite unique with sim racing as an esports or a gaming sector, is that there's actually quite a lot you can do in terms of the hardware side. So there's quite a lot of progression you can do in your setup. So if you're into Call of Duty or you're into Rocket League, then you can buy a controller that's got the paddles at the back, right? So you can buy those, like Scuff Gaming, for example, do them, and that's going to cost you 70-80 quid, and then that's kind of it. You've basically maxed out the hardware performance that you can get, right? Whereas with sim racing, it never ends.
Never. When many moons ago, when I bought the first rig, I said to my wife, I'm going to do sim racing because it's just cheaper than going real racing. So I lied. It's not cheaper at all. It's very expensive. But the beautiful thing is, Tom, and I've said this a million times on different platforms, so I'm not going to fear repeating myself again. You don't have to spend big dollar on sim racing and enjoy it to the absolute highest degree possible. If you want to, and you're fortunate enough to do so, you can improve the immersion, but you can't buy lap time. You can't buy a dog's banana steering wheel and pedals and go 3 seconds faster. It does not work. It can be more immersive and thus more enjoyable, but money doesn't buy competitiveness.
Well, let me flip that on its head, right? You don't actually need to spend a huge amount of money to go and do real motorsport. So, for example, for the price of your wheelbase, you could do a full year in enduro car. So you could go out, and enduro car is so much fun. It's close racing. You're in and around the paddock. So for that, we're getting like an hour and a bit of testing time each, and we're getting qualifying, and then our stints in the races are all an hour and a half or so, depending on your strategy with safety cars, etc. And then if you go for an arrive and drive team, so you're not having to buy your own car, you're just renting it for the year, 4 or 5 grand.
Really?
Plus hotel, travel, etc. But you'll say that your wheel base was 3.5.
Well, so no, if you buy it new, I bought mine second hand, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
So if you probably only have to add up 5 or 6 items on your sim rig before that's a whole year of motorsport, including your ARDS license to go.
Dude, can I give you my wife's phone number after this one? Can you ring her and tell her that, please? Because
just copy and paste that.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
YouTube and we'll send it over.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. It's I've now that I've done 4 races now, and I am convinced that motorsport and being part of an endurance team will be a fixture in my life for decades and decades to come. I could never see myself not doing it, because it's just such a wholesome sport. It's a team sport. We're all there racing together. We're sharing in our successes and failures together. I wouldn't fancy going and doing something like a Mazda Championship where it's just you and your arrive and drive team there, and you turn up as the sole driver. You're the only one driving the car. You're the only one who knows how it feels, and you go out, you do a qualifying session of 20-30 minutes, then you do 2, maybe 3 20-minute races, and then that's it. That would strike me as quite lonely, I think. Whereas the endurance series, like the Fun Cup or Enduro Car or the C1 Endurance Series, you're getting real team experience where you can just go and have a lot of fun. And to be honest with you, like, the racing was great. I absolutely loved it, especially this weekend. It was so much fun. It's beautiful. But it's the pub afterwards for me. Like, just at the end of a sweaty day's racing or qualifying or testing or whatever, just going to the pub for some dinner, a few pints, and talking about your day. you just can't beat it.
It's the camaraderie, isn't it? And I find the same thing in sim racing. Ironically, the more involved I've got in sim racing, the less I actually drive. But back in the day, I was in an endurance league in R Factor 2. And again, same thing, 3-4 guys in a team, and just the working together, all for the same common goal, and the hours upon hours of testing and setting the car up, and the whole shared, you win together, you lose together, the highs and the lows, and the fact that you're doing it together, even in the virtual world, of course, you're in completely, there you are. The virtual world, you're in completely different parts of the world, but you still get together on the camera and stuff, and you have a chitty-chat. Absolutely incredible, and I would recommend it to anybody. It takes the whole sim racing experience up another notch again compared to like hot lapping or random lobby surfing and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Our sim racing team have managed to get one of the pro spots at the Sim Racing Expo this year.
Oh, nice.
So we're all going down there. There's 13 of them. There's 6 of us from Gridfinder all going down, and we've got some stuff planned to do when we're there. And I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. But the prep that the team are putting in is insane. All the setups, spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets of testing data, different, even things like, making sure that we get a nice livery sorted, and, they're just...
It's unreal, isn't it?
It's just such there's so much more to sim racing than sim racing. It's something else I say about sim racing, is that you can be in this sim racing world as a commentator, a livery designer, an engineer. Like, not many people know that about sim racing, that it's not like Call of Duty where you're either playing or you're not. It's like you could be part of a team and actually not turn a single lap.
Yeah, and you see that so many times. All the pro teams, they've got, like you say, strategy people and everything. It's like a race team in the virtual world. Hey Tom, let's spice things up. If I can overtake you in the next 3 laps, can I have a drive in your car?
Oh, right. I mean, that has significantly spiced things up.
No, I couldn't possibly put you on the spot like that. I'll harass you over the weeks. Oh yes, there we go. Job done.
That's outrageous.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't you. Well, I'll have to look back at the footage after this.
That was perfect timing.
So I'm trying to set something up for Brands Hatch, actually, where we can get more people in the car for a test of it, just to be like, look, this is possible on a lot less money than a lot of people think. Come and jump in the Gridfinder car for a day and come and do, so many laps and experience it.
What you were saying about the arrive and drive thing piqued my interest, because what's always prevented me sort of really, and I'm sure it's same for a hell of a lot of people, aside from the monetary aspect, is if you've got a car, you need a garage, you need a trailer, you need something to tow it, and then you need mechanical skill. So Arrive and Drive's amazing.
Not to give away our trade secrets, but we're working on a product for motorsport to basically stop that assumption.
Okay.
So we're trying to. So motorsport is actually a lot more accessible than people think, but it's not, because it's all behind closed doors, and everyone thinks. It does come across as a bit of an old boys club, to be honest. Everyone knows each other, and it can be a bit of a lonely experience the first day in the paddock. So we're working on something to fix that, and we're still in kind of the MVP, so the prototype stage, if you like. But Arrive and Drive team. You turn up and you race. So shout out to our team that we race with, our Arrive and Drive team called Graves. They are fantastic. All we do is drive to the place, the track, get a hotel the night before, chat about strategy, have a few pints, and then the next morning we turn up to the track. The car has already been taken out of the truck. There's a trailer, like a little hospitality area where we can sit. They've got tea and coffee in the garage. Load of snacks, and the car is all prepped. You go out, you do your first test, you give them feedback. They'll do the dampers, the tire pressures, etc., based on your feedback. Ooh.
Oh, nice catch! Catch.
Thank you. And then you go out and race, and if there's a problem, they fix it. So at Cadwell Park, for example, I went out and the gearbox felt horrible. I couldn't go from third to fourth, which in Cowboy Park is not great because you're in fourth for a lot of it. Cowboy Park, by the way, in enduro car is hilarious because up the back straight on the hill, you actually drop revs because the engine's so it's not powerful enough to get up the hill. Anyway, so I went out and the gearbox was feeling horrible. So I came in, I was like, I can't change gear. I'm gonna have to come into the pits. So I went to pits, explained it, and it was a new clutch. They had the clutch changed in an hour.
Nice.
If you had your own car, God, I'd have been up. Well, the first thing I would have done is go out the car, cried a little bit, and then Googled how to change a clutch.
Exactly.
And
that's what scares me.
Well, none of that is necessary, and it works out maybe just marginally more expensive if you take into account your time and the parts that you're buying and the fact that you're not going to get the trade deals, and all the Arrive Drive teams know each other. So if somebody's missing a piece, then then people lend it to them and then sort out the details afterwards, or all that sort of stuff. In Snetterton, day one of testing, one of the team rolled the car, so completely wrote it off. So all the windows were smashed, every panel was bashed in.
Oh no!
They thought that the roll cage had taken a bit of a knock. The engine had been running upside down, so the engine was a complete write-off. They're a big team. They had just brought the spare car out of the truck, and we raced that instead. Happened to be orange as well, which is handy. It just takes out a lot of the stress by outsourcing the stuff that you don't know how to do to people who know how to do it, which seems really obvious when you say it like that.
But that's what really appeals to me, because I don't have mechanical knowledge. And I don't know people who do. I'm not in that world where I know somebody with a garage, or I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So I wouldn't even know how to bleed the brakes. I'd barely know how to change the oil, and I certainly wouldn't be able to set the car up. The Arrive and Drive or such like, where it's just your job to get out there and go racing, that appeals to me a great deal, and that's actually quite a sensible amount of money when you think about it. 3 years.
Enduro car is by far the best value because you split your championship fees, your race fees, etc. With 3 or 4 other people depending on the size of your team, and it's just more fun to be, I think, in a team. That's probably
of course I agree. No, I agree with that totally, especially when it's this kind of level, because you're not talking like you're on the road to Le Mans or anything like that, are you? You're doing it for the fun of doing it.
Well, the other thing is that actually the series is becoming quite popular, because if you think that every single team has got 4 or 5 drivers, which means they have 4 or 5, usually just friendship groups on their social media or families that are invested in them. So you get quite a lot of people coming to the track to watch, and they live stream the races, and you always get a decent amount of people watching the stream. And
do they need a commentator?
Well, they have some commentators, but I mean, I'm sure they're always looking. It's such a fun pack to be part of. It's definitely worth exploring if you want to kind of dip your toe in the world of, I was going to say real world motorsport, but I'm trying to think of another term for that because I don't like the name.
No, I don't like that. Real world sounds a bit weird.
I've kind of settled a little bit on traditional motorsport.
Nice, I like that.
It's a less negative connotation towards sim racing, because essentially you're not suggesting that sim racing isn't real.
Physical motorsport.
Yeah.
But no, I like that. There's something, we're in the process of trying to find a new house, because I want a bigger man cave. Because at the moment, the rooms upstairs, it's like, I suppose the master bedroom this would be that I took over. And I want a solid floor so I can get a motion rig.
Nice.
Which the irony being that if I have to buy a new house in order to do that, I'll be decades away from being able to afford a motion rig. But
well,
I'm going to pay for the house.
If you didn't do that, you could probably just go racing in a real car, which kind of has a built-in motion rig.
This is true. But then you've got the wife factor, where she's not overly excited about my constant travels as it is. So going away and doing what she would consider to be dangerous, and then paying money for the privilege, that's a hard sell. You're a better man than me if you can encourage her.
Well, the thing is, it's quite a friendly place to be, so a lot of people will bring their other halves to the races. The garage is not a big scary place to be in. These are 4KAs. Everyone chats away, and at the weekend we had Jem Hepworth's parents were with us the whole time, and we went for dinner and drinks with them, and it was great. It was a real kind of friendly, casual atmosphere. And there's a guy, Gabriel, who raced with us at Snetterton. He came along to Alton Park and came for dinner with us in the evenings and stuff. He wasn't even racing; he was just there to be around the team. And it's the sort of place where you could bring your other half along to the races, and it not be like a, sorry, this is kind of a working weekend, because it doesn't have that feel to it at all.
That sounds brilliant, man. It really does.
I think I'll send this podcast to EnduroCar, because we've done a whole EnduroCar little pitch here.
Sponsored by EnduroCar.
I wish. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that we are in fact sponsored by Trak Racer. Thank you for giving me this rig that I sweat into every Sunday night. It now stinks.
Not going onto the used market anytime soon.
No.
Do you know though, right? That brings me on to a point when we talk about sim racing hardware. Wind simulator. Always thought that was a gimmick until I got one. I could not be without it. It's incredible.
It would be nice to be a bit cooler.
Well, it's nice for the immersive factor. So obviously, like, you've got it blowing and it's got a wind curve on it. So depending on what direction you're travelling, how fast you're going, blah blah blah. But it just keeps you really, really cool as well. And I've not got it on today because I was just worried that the noise would pick up on the mic and sort of like spoil the audio. But if I'm soloing, then I would never dream of not having it on. Such an incredibly good and relatively inexpensive piece of gear that I would implore anybody at home, if you've always thought like me it's a gimmick, just don't necessarily discount it. Because
I need one just to cool down, to be honest.
Yeah, mate, honestly, I think they're absolutely fantastic. I recommend it massively. Or can he go around the outside of cops? No, he can't. Try to get the cut back.
The early break work. Yeah, I could. I think I could redo with that. See, again, not to keep bringing this back to real world motorsport, because this is Sim Sundays, of course. But the 4K has a built-in wind generator, which is the window. So
that makes it slower with the window open.
Right. So this is. I've gone into the wrong gear. Bugger!
H patterns.
God damn it, H pattern! Why do I do this to myself? So most drivers, when you get to the middle of the race and you stood at the side of the track and you watch the cars going round, you'll see that a lot of the drivers will have their windows open, just a touch. But when you're overtaking, it makes a bit of a difference when you shut them. So if I'm right behind someone, I'm thinking, right, I'm going to go for the overtake. Okay, I've got the good exit. Right, I'm going to fourth, close the windows, DRS is activated, get the slipstream, slingshot straight past. I'm now sweating like anything. I'm going to have to open them up again. It's great. It's those little touches that kind of make it quite a charming series.
Are the electric windows, or have you got to get in there and give them a good old wind?
They are electric, but we actually had the little electric panel with the buttons this weekend, they fell off. So whilst I was driving, I had to kind of like reach down the side to try and find the buttons to then press. Luckily, the button was still attached, so I could. The button still worked, but it was it was a bit of a tricky one when you're going round.
Fernando and Alonso never had to deal with this kind of thing.
I know. When you're going around Druids, the double right-hander, and you're trying to find your window button. It was like Charles Leclerc with the tear-off around 130R, but a third of the speed.
Yeah, exactly. Far less perilous.
Yeah, there is very little peril in EnduroCar, which is no bad thing, to be honest.
No, not at all. Because the thing is, with lower power, that's why I used to love this particular car back in the day when I did the race department club races. You 1% of your brain's used to think about control of the car, then the 99% is based on having a damn good close race.
Yeah.
And I never understand this in sim racing, where everybody's like, I want faster. And then they just can't control it, and it becomes just a case of, if you survive, then you're probably on the podium. Whereas, when we used to race these back in the day, you'd have 30-car grids and everybody's buzzing like we are now, literally like we are now, all the way through the race. But
so much fun.
Way better. Low
so we've had
front-wheel drive.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely love it. And again, final EnduroCar compliment, I promise. the racing in Enduro kart is so good for that exact reason, because it's so low powered. You are, if you find somebody on the same pace as you, you're bumper to bumper for 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, and that's what I absolutely love. I'm not giving a good advert of myself for getting a drive in your team at the moment. Oh no!
Oh no! It's neutral. Oh, you're lucky I missed the gear.
That worked out really well, actually.
Done it again! It's because I'm trying to read the Discord because the questions come in. So a question from EGT Canada, who runs a great sim racing league, one of our sim racing league owners on the Discord, has said, I'm going to get this corner first and I'm going to read it. Oh, good exit. Right, well, as I'm overtaking, I'm going to ask. Sim Racing Expo exists in Germany. Does Paul think a Sim Racing Expo in North America is due? After all, iRacing is based in North America.
1000% yes. I think if you look at the figures of the sort of audience size for sim racing, so obviously I can't talk numbers, but I've certainly seen this information for race department. I've seen it for where our sales originate from in our Factor 2 as well. North America is a good proportion of that one, if not one of the biggest. The fact it doesn't have an expo of some kind is quite honestly bizarre to me.
You want to go 50-50 on it, Paul?
Seriously, mate, yeah. If I had money, I'd be all over that, because I think that could explode. Honestly, it's one of those like weird things where you'll look back in 5 years and say, why did I not do that? Why is it a gaping hole?
Obvious. I suppose because North America's so big, you probably need to do one East Coast, one West Coast.
Yes, of course. Yeah, exactly. But I think unless there is something out there that I just don't know of, I'm not aware of anything, and I think that could be huge. And there's quite a thriving hardware market over that part as well, and a lot of the expo is the hardware manufacturers. And even if there's not many born and bred in America manufacturers, I'm sure a lot of the Europeans would like to tap into that market, and the B2B opportunities for people to find a shipping station or a partner or a supplier or whatever would be sensational. So good question, and I don't have an honest answer as to why I think that's the case. I think it's unreasonable it's not.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, sim racing is taking over the world, so it's only a matter of time.
And it's sustainable as well, sim racing. That's the thing, isn't it? It's not subject to manufacturers pulling out. It's not subject to the cost of fuel going up or restrictions on country access or any of that garbage. It's just literally you can do what you want, where you want, when you want, with whom you want, as long as you've got an internet connection.
Yeah.
So I can't see this going anywhere. And as the world moves more towards electrification and internal combustion engines become less and less socially acceptable, and I'm not getting onto that topic because I will get angry and then vilified.
For that.
Yes. Sim racing acts as an archive. It acts as you can still have big thirsty V8s and V10s and V12s because it doesn't have to be socially. You don't have to. I've got to be careful with my words here, but you don't have to go electric just for the sake of looking like you're greenwashing something, like is the case in real life to a certain degree. You can just do what you want in sim racing. No trees were harmed in the production of this virtual motorsport series.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's, I think in 2022, it's a significant point as well. Yeah.
And I think it's, I'm surprised actually, sort of on that point, just to sort of like fire off that point a little bit, I'm surprised that more racing series don't use simulation software to trial and error some of their like format layouts or new regulations, or I think FAA kind of talked about it a little bit, but I don't think they've actually done a great deal with it. But it's perfect for saying, does a sprint race work? Well, let's just put a... Yeah, see you later, Tom.
I thought it was going to be a move and a half there.
There was definitely a half, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the whole.
Infuriating. I was winding that up for the whole lap. God damn it. I've also just realised the time. It's 21:39, so Mike is going to be sat in the background right now, sleeping. Or asleep. We'll be live all night.
Yeah. Just sung in there somewhere.
So I'm going to just pull over here since I'm completely out of control anyway. Paul, thank you very much for coming on Sim Sundays. It's been a pleasure. It's been really interesting to hear about your journey through commentary into community management and then onto the likes of working for Ferrari and Lamborghini. It's kind of inspiring for, young kids who love sim racing, wondering, is there a future in sim racing for me in the long term? Could I make this a career? Well, the answer is 100% yes. I mean,
For sure.
if you're getting opportunities like Ferrari and Lamborghini now, and sim racing, I believe, is at the bottom of its curve, then these opportunities are going to be massive in the future. So, thank you very much. Thank you for your enlightening chat. Is there anyone you want to say hello to, or thanks to, or any events you've got coming up you want to mention?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, mate, thank you very much for having me on. I really enjoyed it. It's been nice to chitter-chatter about real and virtual motorsport, and you've whet my appetite somewhat to have a look at this Euro Cup, so thank you for that. No, I just want to say, actually, it's a big thank you for everybody who kind of engages in anything I really do, and today as well, for those of you that voted on the track combo on my Facebook, for the guys that are in the server with us, racing now, and for everybody watching at home or who will watch at home later on, really, really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody that's helped me get to where I am. And just echo what you said, Tom. If you're out there thinking, I'd like a piece of that pie, go do it. Nothing's stopping you apart from yourself. Dig deep, love what you do, work hard, sniff out those opportunities, and if you get a chance, grab it with both hands. But more importantly than anything, and this is not just for sim racing, this is for life, be a good person while you do it. That's all that matters. Good people, more often than not, good things happen to them eventually. So don't climb over the top of somebody else for an opportunity. Don't go out there. I know of somebody, for example, that's gone out there and spoken to an organisation saying, I'm a better commentator than they are, give me the job. Don't do shady stuff like that one, because it's a small industry. Cool. Just be good to each other and yourself. And if you're a good person and you're good at what you do and you work hard, then the coins should fall your direction one day.
Brilliant. Paul, thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate having you on the show. And we'll see you at Expo, potentially.
Fingers crossed, mate. If I can find some more that magical annual leave time that I keep burning like it's going out of fashion.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you to everyone for watching on the YouTube. The episode will go live next Sunday on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Our latest episode went live this morning. It was with Dave Cam, and that was a really funny episode. There was some good racing in that one, and I put a lot of highlights from the racing into the episode. So if you've not listened to it, go and check it out. And thank you to Trak Racer for giving me this very, very, very sweaty yet sturdy rig. Brilliant. All right. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.